Hi everybody and welcome back to the painting channel. Today I'm going to be doing a lovely ink and wash, or indeed you could call it urban sketching. But I'm going to be using ink pens to create a wonderful picture of the lifeboat station that sits on the side of the rocks at the Lizard Peninsula in Cornwall and is probably England's most southerly lifeboat station. So join me, let's roll that intro, let's see how it turns out. Okay everybody, welcome back. Now, as I said just now, I am doing an ink and wash. Many people today call it urban sketching. I still term it as ink and wash, or line and wash is another term for it. But I'm going to be doing a picture, as I said just now, of the lifeboat station that sits on the side of the Lizard Peninsula down in Cornwall. Now, it's a very, very old lifeboat station. I don't think it's actually in use anymore, but if you know better, let me know in the comments underneath here. But I don't think it is, but it does stand testament to the heroism of all of those lifeboatmen in the previous years that have gone out and saved souls from drowning in the treacherous seas that can be found off the Cornish coast. So that's why I wanted to do it. I took a visit there some years ago and took this photograph. I've never actually decided how I wanted to portray it, but I felt today it would be nice to do it on a lovely piece of hot press paper from Saunders Waterford and do a ink and wash for you. So hopefully you'll get something from it. I'm sure you will. And if you want to call it urban sketching, that's fine. I don't actually call myself an urban sketcher, but there are many out there that do it far better than I do. So I'm going to get on with it now, and I'll see you all at the other end. Take care. Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back. Now, before we crack on with this little ink and wash study of Cornwall, let me just talk a little bit about the materials we're going to be using on this one. Now, the paper, first and foremost, is a hot press. That means it's extremely smooth, and unlike the rough or the knot surface, which are progressively rougher in texture, it makes it ideal for using pen and ink and similar sort of things on the surface. Now, the paper's weight, well, it's first and foremost, it's from Saunders Waterford, but it is also a very heavy paper. It is a 300 pound, that's a 640 GSM, and it is such a weight that it does not need to be taped down or stretched or anything like that. It won't buckle on you. It will do all you need it to do, and it will remain fairly flat, especially if you just leave it to dry off when you've finished. Now, it's in this pretty much homemade device. Now, this I saw Andrew Pitt using one of these, and he uses it exclusively. I've never seen him do a watercolor without using his version of this. Now, mine's not a professional one. It was cut by hand, and obviously it's not brilliant, but it does its job, and I'm quite happy with it. And when I can find somebody from a Perspex company to make me a proper one to certain sizes, then I will get one professionally cut. But right now I've got to make do with this one here. Okay, now the pens that I'm using, well, I've got a whole selection of pens that I keep with me all the time. I have an old noodler. I have a couple of food nibs or food nibs, depending on how you pronounce that. One's the Sailor and one's the Hung Dian, I think it's called. Then I've got several Lame pens, and I have a broad, a medium, a fine, and extra fine. And if you're unsure how to work that out, if you've got one or two, is there's a little engraved thing just underneath there on the nib, and you can photograph it if you can't see it with the naked eye, but it does say EF or F or M or B depending on the nib size. The ink, well, the ink I'm using is a Diatramentis. It is a document ink. They also do an archival one. I don't think there's a lot to choose from between them, but I use this because it is a very good black and it works well in the pen. It never dries out and causes a problem, and it is completely waterproof. So I say completely waterproof, it is allowing it to dry first. If you start getting in with wet pigments or paint before this is dried off, it's going to spread and do its own thing. But if it's dry, that's it, and then you can do your wash afterwards. Okay, so the pen is charged, ready to go. Now, I said right at the start that I'm taking myself a little bit out of my comfort zone, and that's very true. I love doing ink and wash, and I sort of, the only thing I don't really like doing too many things of is architecture. I'll do it when I'm pushed to, or if it's in my scene. I have no choice. But if I have a choice, I'll try and avoid it as often as I can. So this really is going to test me a little bit. And I feel that maybe you should often take yourself out of your comfort zone. It really does sort of do some good things because it tests you. And I'm just feeling my way with this. Now, you could, if you felt a little bit that way about it, you could quite happily quite simply draw it in pencil, and then when you're happy with your drawing, ink it over. That's not an issue. That really doesn't matter. And then we've got the running keel underneath there. We come back to the stern here, and the stern, obviously because of the foreshortening, is going to be much wider. Let's just bring that in through there and bring that up there, and let's just bring that down. It's going to be sitting up in the air, so it's not coming all the way down. Let's try and get that about right. Loads of lines. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. There's a color change there, and we've got the part here which is reinforcing for the outboard motor, if indeed that's what it has. It may have an inboard, I don't know, but I think there's something on here for a little outboard. And then we've got a little sign on the back which is telling us the name and the location of the registration of this vessel, and we're going to put one on this side, and that gives us the name of the actual boat. I think that worked better actually. The Lizard. I'm not sure I'm going to get all this in. Catherine. I'm struggling. Catherine. There we go. Almost. Louise. The second. There we go. It's as good as it's going to get, and I think it works. Okay, now we're coming down through here, and we've got the stern, and then we're coming under here for the keel, and that turns round like that. And then we're going to look at this area because we've got a lot of planking in this vessel, and there's a nice sidewall. I'll bring that down through there to meet up with that one. And then we've got the name and number. This is the registration number, and it's registered in Falmouth. So we've got FH, and then we have 629. Sky is very simple. We're not going to put too much into the sky. Now what we can do is we've got some other marks in here. We've got some staining, which I'm just going to put in, and little characteristic stains and old marks on this building. So I'm just going to bring those down and into play. There is a crack through there, which I just want to bring up, and there is an electrical cable that is pinned to there and goes up somewhere else, and I think this one goes all the way to the edge there, comes around and down the side of the building. All right, now here we've got a bit of a difference in the wall, so that comes out through this. Just bring that down there. We've got a lot of staining under here with all the sort of rust. I guess there must be a metal girder under that piece of canopy, because there is rust that had been staining this wall for what appears to be, must have been years, and I want to sort of suggest that like that. But I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let this ink dry off, and I'm going to come back in and we'll start putting some colour on. And the colour to me with this sort of drawing is merely support act. It's unlike a watercolour where you have the painting is, or the colour is absolute be all and end all as such, but with an ink and wash, the drawing to me is the star of the role, and I think that that is quite important to remember. I'm going to bring that through there, just bring that down a little closer to there, making that door a little wider before we finish off. There's a little dark there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to come back in with food nib, or the food nib, depending on how you pronounce it. And I'm just going to thicken up some of these marks in here, just some of these darks, where I want a slightly more heavy line under things like the sills, a little bit of extra shadowing to go under there. And I'm just giving a little bit more emphasis to certain marks that we put in. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to let all of that dry up now, and we're going to come back in a little while, and then I'm going to put the washes on. Hopefully we'll make a pleasant looking picture from this. Hi everybody, welcome back, and the ink has dried very nicely, and I'm ready to start applying some colour. Now before I do that, let's have a look at the brushes. These are the brushes that I use, and I've got my gouache on one side and my watercolour on the other. I've edited down because I was just carrying way too many. So for this purpose, I'm going to be using, I'm going to use a flat. I'm going to use a medium round. I'm going to use one of these two new longer points. They're like a bellied. I'm going to have them. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them. I'm itching to use them. I haven't tried them yet. But this is like a long point, very super long point with a bit of a belly in it. I'm going to use the smaller of the two, and might use that instead of using a rigger on this occasion. And for that also, I'm going to be using a small round. I think that's going to do me, just the 4. And we'll put that to one side, and let's get started. So I'm going to mix up some fresh colour, and I'm going to be using a bit of blue in the form of some cobalt blue, my favourite blue for skies and everything else. Before I go any further still, just a quick look at these. These are 3 new colours. Well, 2 you saw sitting up here in the last video, and that is light red and Viridian. I'm trialling them out for a little while in these extra pans that I've semi-glued into my lovely watercolour set. And this one, well, this one is a lavender from Daniel Smith, and I've been looking at it for some time, seen several people using it, so I want to put in a little bit of raw sienna, and this is the way I normally touch my skies, with a bit of warmth in the cloud first, and then I drop some blue in. But I don't need to worry about going all the way out to the outer edges of this, and I'm really not that bothered about going over some of the structure either. So I'm just going to come in and just going to pop some colour in. Okay, I think that's dry enough to continue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up for the building itself. I'm looking at coming in with several colours at once. So I'm going to come in with some reds over here, that sort of rusty look. And to that red, I think I'm going to add in some cobalt just to knock it down and make it look a little bit dingier, darker, rusty coloured maybe. And I can always touch in a bit of pure red for that rust. But also, I want to look at that background or the part of the building, the main body of the building. So I'm going to use some raw sienna. But I'm really liking what this violet's doing. I'm going to put quite a bit of that now into this mix. And look how grey that suddenly forms that violet colour into. Very blue in this one. So what we can do is bring some of that in here. We can come back in, pick up some of that red or some of that colour there, the raw sienna. And we've got two colours to our building. So I'm going to come in first and foremost then. I'm just going to run this whole area with this colour, this strong tint of a colour, like that. I'm going to use a bit more of that lavender though in here, this part of the vessel on the top trim on there. I'm not sure what they call that, the gum rail or something like that. I want to say, probably got that very wrong. Probably half of you sitting there just laughing at my silly little mistake. Right, I'm going to put some cobalt blue now, and I'm going to mix that in with some ultramarine blue, just to cool the blue down. I may come back with some indigo. I just want to put in that nice blue colour for our boat. Now my boat over here, it's white, yes, but it's not white. It's really a pale, creamy, dirty colour because it's in the shade. So you're not going to see it in its all white colour. But when this dries, hopefully it will dry a little lighter than that and make it suggest that it's white. If you want to be assured of that, then just come in again with a damp brush just to lift off some of that pigment, just so that when it dries paler and you don't have a problem. I'm going to wait to put that in at the end of the day. I've got to put in a dark for the doors. I'm going to use some Payne's Grey into here, a little bit of, where should I go, some raw burnt sienna, just to warm that up a little bit. I come in here and put that in for our darkness on our door. There we go. One door. Don't need to be too much with it. You don't need to do too much at all. The door suggests itself. Now I'm going to continue that idea, but I'm going to come in with a smaller round just for a short while. And I'm going to look at putting a little bit of red to that. So slightly darker brown than that colour. Now that this is drying up quite nicely, at least I think it is. I think it's good enough to go. I'm going to try it anyway. If it starts to move too much, I will stop. But there is my window frame coming down, down, down and down. one window frame. A lot of rust underneath it. So I'm going to bring that up through there. A lot of rust at this point, quite dark, quite messed up. A little bit of that under there, and just bring that warmth down underneath that section there. Okay. Now there are some little suggestions of rust and staining on that piece of concrete, so I'm just going to suggest a little bit of that, not too much. There's another bit through some of this area on the wall. It could cause me a problem because I went in with a very, very watery pigment then, and if that caused me a problem, I'm going to have to rework that area with a bit more staining, but hopefully I can get away with it. Now I think I can come down in here with a bit more sienna to that mix. Just come in here with this sort of staining on that door, like that. Okay, that's good enough, I think. Maybe a little bit of yellow into that orangey colour, a little bit more of the sienna. Don't want to overwork it. The idea of this is just to keep it fairly simple. Now I'm going to work some more of this lavender. I think it's beautiful with some of these warm colours. This should be dry. I'm just going to come across here now with the shadows into the building here, through here. And I said I think my shadows are not quite in the right place, but I think they are good for the purposes of this painting. So a nice shadow through there. Simple, clean lines, and we've got the shadow off of there. Let's put that in. And then we've got all the stuff here that's casting shadows around here, if you remember. Lots of sort of fairly loose and intricate shapes. I'm just going to tap a few marks in like that, just to suggest that there's an awful lot happening. There's a line through there. There's a shape of the vessel here, and comes up through here. A little bit more, quite dark up through the top here, with other structures into the mix. And you've got little shapes here that are the rails and the lines and all the various bits of equipment. They're just making their presence felt on there. Very quickly done, didn't need to do too much with that. And again, similarly, we got a shadow from this crate, this box here, and up through here. There's quite a bit of shadowing and a big line coming this way, which I'm just going to put that in like that, and it sort of stops and goes off somewhere else. So let's just leave that like that, and that's all we need to do with that. Now there is a set of fundamentally small additions to the colour and light into this concrete, as well as being shadows. We've got these little concrete lines. I don't quite what they're called, that, you know, when you sort of tamp down the concrete, you get little lines, little ridges. I think they're not there because someone was sloppy with the concreting. I think it's been purposefully done because when there's wet or slimy fish, I don't know, you know, when it's cold and damp or icy, then you've got a bit of grip on the concrete to haul up anything that you're hauling up. There's that little flick there with that little light. And once this is done, I will add in a few splats just to mess up some of these dirtier marks that we have from before. Quickly then, I'm just going to come in with some indigo and some, yeah, that's the indigo. I had some Payne's Grey for some reason. There you go. Bit of both then. And I'm just going to pop that in underneath our boat to give that some form and shape underneath the bottom of it, as it were. Bring that up like that. There we go. So I think that works. And I'm going to put a bit of shadowing into one or two areas of these as well, where they're sort of closer to another part, sort of under the base of the floor there, under there where there's two areas, just to lose the form a little bit more. And I've got the dark in there, and I'm leaving the top, and I've got my edge of the wall there. Just define that against the edge of the boat, and that's done. Okay, everything else up here is sorted. What I will do is put a little bit of sienna A little bit of that blue colour into that sort of violet. There's a pretty dirty grungy grey. Just want to put in the sort of top to this area here. There's two parts to it, one there like that and one about there, and that just gives rise to that area and it gives it a covered in look. Going to use a little bit more blue into it. This is going to come in here with some of the shadows and pleats on this. I think it is actually a cover for something in there. I'm going to bring a little bit of warmth into the top of it, like that. Just vary up the mix ever so slightly. So that just suggests that there is something being covered up there, and I think that works fine. A little bit of light along the top of the rail, and that can be used as a bit of an edge to that. Bring that around, a little bit of an edge to there. That's fine. Now we do have a bit of the building shown. I did draw this section in, but I don't think it is. I think it's actually part of something on the vessel. I don't know what part, but I think there's something there. Doesn't really make a lot of it. It's just going to fill that information in a little bit to make it a little more suggestive of detail and information. I think I just repeated myself. Sorry about that. Right, I'm going to come in with some Indian yellow now. Just clean that up. It's got a bit dirty in the past. Picking up a little bit of yellow. Just want to put our little yellow sign in. There's a little warning sign, and maybe a stronger amount of yellow. Tap of that orange into it, just to make it a little deeper for the cone. So let's make our little cone in here. There we go, lovely cone colour. I'm going to leave it and put the blue and the red in at some point in the very near future. Now, I was hoping to use something on that that lovely thin rigger style long point thing, but I haven't actually found a good use for it yet. I'm going to put that little bit of a sign in there, and then I'm just going to run that dark into these window frames, strengthen those. That's fine, don't need to do any more than that. And maybe just a little bit, that's a bit too strong. Take that out, weaken that off, just bring that down and into there, and just down the side where there's sort of old dampness and staining, something in there, maybe a little bit more sienna into the top of whatever that is there. Good, okay, I think we're winning. I think we're almost finished, to be fair. I'm going to let this dry before I do any more ink work. One thing I have forgotten, I just realised, is that sort of Lifeboat thing. So let's come in. It's quite a red colour. So I'm going to use some vermilion, tapping in a little bit of alizarin or magenta, whatever you have in that order. Just going to come in with the shadow area there. Actually, I'm going to use that. I think that's a nice colour for the overall look. And then I'm going to come in with a bit of indigo to that red, just to lose the impact of it. A bit of blue into it. There we go. Too much, too much. Come back. There we go, that'll do it. I just want to bring a little side influence there to give it a three-dimensional look. There we are. That's all it needs to be done. Our white box is still very, very white, so let's come in with a bit of that lavender again. Just pop that into place. I want it very weak. I don't want it too strong. Just want to influence that white like that. And that's all that really needs. He says as he taps in a little bit of yellow. I'm going to come back in with the very fine nib of the lame. Just going to put in a few more extra marks, and I want to just tease some around these window frames just to increase what I've got going on here around the concrete, around the sight lines of the windows like this. There we are. Little bits and pieces. I don't want to overdo it as much as I didn't want to overdo it before, but I feel that it just needs a little more work. think we're pretty much done. I'm sort of almost thinking that I'm going to go too far if I'm not too careful, and it's easily done. There's a few lines coming down through here. I don't want to put those in. I don't think they bring anything to it at all. And I'm just sort of doing the last little bits and pieces. Something up here like some sort of old telephone apparatus on the side of the building there. A little bit of dark. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with the pen and the brush just to bring this to an end. So I'm going to bring that little dark area in there that I had before, another little bit there, and then there is a little bit there and down that side. Okay, that just reinforces that dark against the sky as well, which is quite useful. All right, and there's a little bit of dark staining down the corner of the wall that then comes through here, just at the top there, under there, and then this gets a little bluer. I'm going to use a little bit more ultramarine blue, and I'm going to bring that across that fascia. It's quite dark. I'm only scratching it through. I don't need to make a big statement of that, but I do need it to be a little different than where it was just now. So it's quite a dark area that I completely missed. There we are. It wasn't hard to solve, but it did need doing. A little bit of dark under there as well, just to bring that into play. I think I'm done, because if I keep on, I am going to go too far with this, and I didn't really want to do that. As he says, he's picking up another bit of colour, because I've forgotten the base of that box there. Now it looks a little more three-dimensional than it did 2 seconds ago. All right, okay. I've got to stop. I've got to stop. Got to stop. Keep telling myself I've got to stop, and I am going to stop. I'm going to sign it in the pen. So there we go. That's my signature. Telling you it's done. As he takes one big last look around. Well, I am going to do a bit more, aren't I? I did say I would. Pick up a little bit of fresh white gouache on the end of this little Riggers type brush and just put that in 1 or 2 places of highlights, such as there, and a little bit on that roof, down the side there, on there. Where else do I feel that I need it? Not too many places, I don't think. Everybody, one ink and wash, or indeed call it urban sketching if you so wish, but one ink and wash completed of that very old lifeboat station that is at the Lizard, and I do believe it to be the most southerly lifeboat station that England actually has or had, because I'm sure it's no longer in commission and no longer used, but it does stand testament to all the heroes that used to man the lifeboat from that station, and indeed saved all the many souls over the many years that it was in operation. So from that point of view, it is well worth keeping there and preserving, which I'm sure that's the case. But I just had a whole heap of fun doing it for you, and I've learned a few things myself along the way, and I'm sure you got something from the process. And if you have enjoyed this, then please don't forget, give it a thumbs up and a like. That really does help it grow, or certainly the channel grow. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything to do that, but it really does help my channel out an awful lot. And I would really be indebted to you if you would just click the subscribe button and the notification tab, because it tells you every time I upload a new video. So that would be awesome to have your company in future videos. But also don't forget, I have a Patreon, which has got so much on there already. Much of it is now becoming more and more exclusive to my patrons, so you get an awful lot more for your money than having sort of full frame versions of YouTube specials. So you do get a lot of exclusive content, so it's well worth nipping on over there, and the reference to this photo will be there for you to download for free. You don't need to be a patron to do that. Nip on over there, download it, and have a go at this one yourself, and put your versions up on the Painting with Paul apps page over on Facebook. I'd love to see the results of what you do from my tutorials. And while you're there, as I said, look around, because there is so much on offer. It starts at $3 and it goes up to about $14 if you want the oil and the watercolor tiers. So take a look. I'd love to welcome you as my latest patron. One last plug for my Sky course. Now on my website there is a link to a course, and I'll put the link in the details under this video and other videos, where you can go over and look at my Sky course, my painting skies in watercolor, and it does only cost you £67 for over 7 hours of content right now. So it's well worth checking out, and I'd love to see you over there on that course in the future. That would be fantastic. So enough of the plugging. I'm going to let you guys get on, and I've had a lot of fun with this, as I said, and I'm going to get ready for a new video. Not sure what it's going to be yet, but I'll see each and every one of you next week. In the meantime, stay safe wherever you are. Have heaps of fun, but moreover, enjoy your painting, people. Take care. Bye-bye.